Good morning. Glad everybody's here this morning. Everybody have a good football day yesterday? The ones that said no, that was a great football day yesterday. For all y'all that said no, that's right. All right, let me ask you, our study has been, can I be in the American Army and be a Christian and be in God's Army? And we've been doing a study from the Old Testament, and we're on Uriah the Hittite. So right now, based off if you've been here, does God allow an army? Okay, he does. All right, we talked about King David a little bit and all this other stuff. So was King David in the army? So can we today be in the army? So far, we see biblically anything that's wrong. Now, as far as a personal choice, we still have choices, right? Some people choose to be in the military. Some people choose not to be in the military. Is there anything wrong with that? Okay. The class, I enjoyed the discussion, and if I fall asleep while I'm sleeping, we had 3 of the grandkids last night, and the youngest one's 3 months. He's on a 3-hour feeding schedule. If he doesn't eat the whole baba at the first hour, I've got to do it an hour and a half. Well, I got volunteer. Sweetness says she's not doing it. So I think the most sleep I got last night was an hour at one time. But it's great doing with the grandkids and getting him and at 3 o'clock and then again at 4:30 and then again at whatever time. But as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking about things and coming in and out. And I just want to say, first of all, thanks for and I did realize we've only got 3 more classes today and 2 more. So it's probably half of you say, yay, it'll be over with. So I've got to hurry up and get into the New Testament and then do a conclusion if we make it that far. But I have enjoyed it. I have enjoyed the discussion. Part of the reason that I do this, or I want to have in my class anyway, I want to hear talk from y'all. To learn, I learn just about as much, if not more, when y'all say something. And I want to say something to a couple people that made comments last week. We're talking about army and Uriah the Hittite, why he didn't go home. King David and Bathsheba had something, so he's trying to cover the adulterous affair, sending Uriah home. He doesn't go home. And we talked about why do men in particular at that time do things like that. And Kara made a good point last week about mothers. Do you remember what you said? What did you say? Say it again. Huh? Mothers will protect. And she's exactly right. I'm doing it from a perspective, and that was a whole nother perspective that I had totally. So when we're talking about the military, we're not talking about a brotherhood in the military, although we are, but there are others, mothers for their kids. Do you know what the number one day, when we used to have landlines and phones and stuff like that, the number one day that phones got tied up the most was Mother's Day? I wonder why that is. Father's Day wasn't even a blip on the doggone scale, all right? But Mother's Day. So there is, and I appreciate that comment. And it's comments like that when we're doing this, we're on this road to figure out, can I be in the army or in the military? But we go off into some other thing, and that's what Bible study is about. If you're studying the Bible and you're reading something may pop out, and you got a question about it. Wendy said something too, so I don't want to scare anybody. If you say something, I may use you, I may use it. Kara, thank you for that. Wendy said the job and getting phone calls. Civilians, do y'all immerse yourself in your job just like the military? When I was at Fort Bragg, I was deployed over a year of it. And I was there the last time 2 years. So y'all do the math. When I was there, I lived in a housing area on Fort Bragg that had Special Forces and Delta Force. I was there compared to them. One neighbor I never saw, other neighbor I saw him twice in the 2 years. Of course, I was deployed over a year of that. And Miss Miller, you was up in Fayetteville at Fort Bragg. You can probably attest to that too. So people are gone, but civilian jobs, you get tied down by these things, don't you? Don't you, Tim? I know I did up until the end of October. I don't worry about it. So people call. Somebody said, I called you. I said, I'm retired. I don't have to have that phone. I can set it and check it 5 hours from now. I'm not on call anymore. That's a wonderful thing. So we're making some of the things that we're talking about as the military also transposes over into the civilian world. So we're trying to make a point on that. Enough said about it. Anybody have any general comments? We're talking about Uriah some more because something else popped into my head last night. And Cindy tells me that I shouldn't be thinking. I said, well, I had to feed him. We're talking about Uriah the Hittite. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 11, verses 14 to 17. 2 Samuel 11, chapter 14 to 17. Let's set the stage again real quick. David had an adulterous affair with Uriah the Hittite's wife, which is Bathsheba. After a period of time, she says, King David, hey, I'm pregnant. King David says, oh, no, I'm in trouble. He sends word to the front line where they're in war because King David didn't go to war, this particular war. Uriah comes back. He tells him, go spend some night. I just want to know how things are going at the war. Go home, spend the night with your wife, hoping that would cover it. Well, Uriah was one that says he didn't go home. He stayed at the king's palace. Next night, King David, oh, no, I got to do something. Tried to get him drunk, got him drunk. Uriah had to wear through all that he wasn't going, so he stayed with the servants or whatever. And gets up the next day, David said, I got a problem. So let's read about what that problem, how he's going to solve this solution. 2 Samuel 11, verses 14 to 17. In the morning it happened that David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah. Now remember, Joab is the man that's in charge of the whole battle. And he wrote in a letter saying, set Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle and retreat from him, that he may be struck down and die. So it was while Joab besieged the city that he assigned Uriah to a place where he knew there were valiant men. Then the men of the city came out and fought with Joab. And some of the people of the servants of David fell, and Uriah the Hittite died also. Who, when David wrote that note, those orders to Joab, who brought those orders to Joab? Uriah. Uriah had the loyalty, and you got to have discipline and stuff. He didn't peek in those orders to see what it was. David had faith in Uriah that he wouldn't do that. All right? So he gives it to Joab. Joab reads it. Now, we talk about David with blood on his hands. Who got killed in this battle when David wanted Uriah killed, and then it happened? Who all got killed? Uriah the Hittite got killed? Anybody else get killed with him? Have you ever thought about that? Sometimes you think it was just Uriah the Hittite that got killed. And they put him right where the biggest battle was. Why do you think Uriah, and it goes back to the leadership thing, and we've talked about that. How did Uriah get killed? Because remember, Uriah is one of David's mighty men. He's already proved himself. Does he have to be on the front line fighting? No, but he was. Why? Because he's a warrior? He got him, but why couldn't he have all them other people standing up there doing that?
Because he got this letter that said put him at the front.
Okay. Well, put his men, his platoon, his company, whatever he was in charge of. Raymond?
You mentioned that you were the example when you were fighting. You went to the front line no matter what to be that example to the rest.
Well, I think that's why, to motivate the men. To motivate the men, if you're especially going into battle and you know that you might not come back from that, people think about that, but they'll go if you go, if they trust the leader. A movie reference. Y'all seen the Gladiator? Remember at the beginning of the war scene, and they getting ready to go into battle? Where's Caesar at in the battle? If y'all have seen it, if you can remember, y'all don't. I pay attention to stuff like that. He's sitting back up on the hill, watching. He's Caesar, the head of Rome. Does he need to be out there? All right. Where's General Maximus, Vasilius, whatever his name is. He's down in, he didn't have to do that. He's walking the line. He's leading the doggone cavalry charge from the rear, and he's in the battle. He doesn't have to do that. So that's sort of what Uriah does. I just want to make the point here that Uriah wasn't the only one that was killed. There was other people that were killed along with him, which is one of these things I was thinking last night as I'm talking. If Joab, y'all know what war crimes are? What were the Nuremberg trials about after World War II? War crimes of what? For the leaders in the German army. Let's get closer to home to Vietnam, and I don't know if any of y'all lived here. Do y'all remember the My Lai massacre? Lieutenant Calley. Where's Lieutenant Calley from? Columbus, Georgia. Huh? All right, but his family and stuff are from here. Lieutenant Calley got orders to go in. It was a search and destroy thing in Vietnam. Came up on a village, had women, children, and older men. Had a group about this size, probably a little bit more. Search and destroy. What do you think he told his men to do? Kill them all. Do we do that in today's modern army? No. Huh? All right. He was court-martialed, went to Fort Leavenworth, and he got out. And I think he came back to Columbus, and I think he died here. I can't remember. But as far as war crimes and stuff like that, and Nuremberg was about that, and Calley was the only one, as far as I can remember, that got court-martialed over this, because the orders came from higher, and the men did it. If you're one of those soldiers, and he tells you to kill everybody, is that a sense of right and wrong? Are they enemy combatants?
Well, I don't know if they're in there, embedded in there or not.
If there's a mother and a 3-year-old kid, and that's all you see. I'm sorry? I still couldn't. With a grenade, well, the grenades and all that stuff didn't get all improvised until here, modern warfare with the Middle East. But that stuff did go on, not so much with women and children, but it did go on over there. Let's talk about Guantanamo Bay, when they had problems with the prisoners down there recently, and the waterboarding and all that other stuff they were doing. Did those people go to jail for that or get prosecuted over that? Do you think higher people knew about it? Not a word was said. Did any of them go to get prosecuted or anything? I guess the point I'm trying to make is, did Joab have an obligation, knowing Uriah the Hittite didn't do anything wrong, to set him up there and know full well that I'm fixing to set you up there to die? Did Joab have an obligation to say, I'm not going to do that? Different times. Back in those times, you didn't. Because what did the king do? All right. You think that was it? Just that those are good points, things to think about, and to go back and say, well, maybe when they say this over here, maybe he's talking about that. And the only thing I'm saying is, when you go in and do something, are you accountable? You can be tried and prosecuted. You can't say, well, first sergeant or sergeant major, the colonel, they said to go in there and kill all those women and children.
If I know right and wrong, if I know right and wrong, I know what to do that's not wrong. I'm sorry.
Okay? Yeah, you're right. But can you stand up and do it? This is one of those biblical situations that we're talking about from 4,000 years ago. Does it apply today? Yes, sir. And I'm getting ready to make another point. Go ahead. Okay, if you're a leader, I'm going to bring it, because the only way I can make some of these things. Y'all watch the movie Platoon? Those two platoon sergeants that were at odds with each other, and the one platoon sergeant was going to kill the other platoon sergeant, or tried to, and matter of fact, did. Do you remember what that was about? They went into a village, and he was trying to get his people to do something, and he stopped it and said, I'm going to turn you in, and we're going to court and get it turned up. And the guy said, you ain't going to do that. I'm paraphrasing. Stuff like that does happen. So you've got to did anybody else in that movie, if you can remember, stand up with that platoon sergeant and says, I'm going to turn you in? Did anybody else say, I'm going to go with you, if you can remember? I'm not saying go back and watch the movie, but and I'm just saying, sometimes it's easier said than done, that hopefully you'll never be in that situation to do that. Will you ever have a Daniel moment where you've got to do something or be thrown in the lion's den? Are you ever going to have Meshach and Abednego moment where you've got to do something or you'll be thrown into the fiery pit? Are you ever going to have those in today's 21st century? Well, I'm talking about y'all, somebody sitting here. Can that happen to you? Well, I've told this story before. Again, it goes back. Korea had a lot of incidentals. When I was in Korea, the last time I was a first sergeant, and they had a PX, which is a little shopette, like a little Spectrum minus the gas and all that other stuff. You go in there and get tasty treats and all that other stuff. Well, they were going to dedicate it, and the people that were running, they're all South Koreans that run it. And do y'all know what their religion is? Huh? Is it Shinto or Hindu? Buddhas? That's a homework question. But in order to dedicate this, the battalion staff, the colonel, the sergeant major, and all the command staff had to be there, and all the company first sergeants and captains had to be there. So we get there, and they're laid out, and there's a white cloth with a pig's head in the middle of it, because it was the year of the pig or month of the pig or whatever it was. And they had fruits and vegetables laid out. What do you think they did to that? They knelt down and prayed to that. All right, so I'm getting up there. You know, in your military careers, you move up by what you do or don't do. And I'm saying, I got a decision to make. I can do it. Nobody in America, nobody from Rose Hill or wherever it was I was at, nobody's going to know that. Except who? Me and God. So what would you do? Everybody's doing it. Colonel, he's the first one down. Great guy. But if you're not grounded in Christianity or Jesus, some people had no problem with it. Some people had no idea what they were doing. What do you think I did? I stood up. I wasn't going to bow down. Now, I was expected to be relieved right after that, too. So there was a cost involved. I didn't know what that cost was, and that was my perceived cost. But there was a cost involved. So what I'm saying is, when we read some of these things, we may not be thrown into the fiery furnace, but you may be in the military or whatever. You may have to make a decision that goes against everything that you believe in, and what are you going to do when that time happens? All right? I don't know how I got off on all that, but anyway. Uriah, but when we're reading the Bible, try to make it apply to you to see. We read about Joab and Uriah and King. This stuff is going on today if we look for it through our study. Now, we've talked about genealogy. Genealogy of Jesus. Was genealogy important? All right, let's go to Matthew chapter 1. And this is just a little interesting side note when you do Bible study. We're talking about genealogy. Matthew chapter 1, we're going to read verses 5 through 6. Now, how many genealogies of Jesus are listed in the Bible? 2. One's in Matthew. I'm not going to tell you where the other one is. That's your homework assignment to find it. but I'll narrow it down. It's in Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. And we know one's in Matthew, so that narrows it down to 3. If we got 2 genealogies, who do you think they trace? Huh? The mom and dad? But did Jesus really have a dad? An earthly dad? All right, so when you read these genealogies, you try to figure out which is what, or if they're the same or if they're different. But let's read this with Matthew chapter 1, verses 5 through 6. Salmon begot Boaz by Rahab. Boaz begot Obed by Ruth. Obed begot Jesse. And Jesse begot David. And Jesse begot David the king. David the king begot Solomon by her who had been the wife of Uriah. It's just strange to me that in the genealogy of David that Uriah the Hittite, it doesn't say Hittite, but it's Uriah, is listed into that. But it tells why. Because after Uriah's death, David married Bathsheba. The first child died. Then they had Solomon. So Uriah, that's just interesting. We think we're here of Uriah in 2 or 3 things in the Old Testament and of mighty men under this right here. And all of a sudden we see he's in Jesus' genealogy. And genealogy matters. All right. Any questions on that? I thought it was interesting. Y'all may not, but anyway. King David. We're not going to spend a lot of time because I've only got 2 Sundays after this. A man after God's own heart. Let's go to 1 Samuel 13. Well, I'm just going to go Acts 13:22. Was David a good man or a bad man? Did he do bad things? He was a good man gone bad. Acts 13, verse 22. After all this, and when he had removed him, he raised up for them David as king, to whom also he gave testimony and said, I have found David, the son of Jesse, a man after my own heart, who will do all my will. Even after what David did, he will do my will. Or can we fall in that category? Do we fall short sometimes? Do we have a chance? Okay, we can. Jesus can say, day of judgment, there's Brooke. She's a woman after my own heart because she lived upright. Are we saying that David was perfect? Are we saying that Brooke is perfect? Are we all perfect? And then Jesus is the one that allows us to go to heaven. All right, the king, and we're not going to go through all this. Did King David want to build the temple? Where was the Ark of the Covenant prior to being in the temple? In the tabernacle, which is a little tent thing. So David said, hey, I'm king. I've got all this money and stuff. I'm going to build a temple. Did God allow him to build a temple? Why not? He said, and we're not going to take the time to go into it. He had blood on his hands. And what was the blood on his hands? What, Jennifer? Battles? Okay. Let me just throw this out here. Not only the battles, you think it was the battles, which he did, I think, under God's authorization. What about Uriah the Hittite? And not just Uriah, but all those other men that went with him. Do you think that could be it? Because everybody that we get into one of these conversations, I'm just throwing this out here as a possibility. That's one of the things when you're feeding a 3-month-old at 1:30 at night, things pop into your head. Do you think he may have been talking about Uriah and all the soldiers that were with him?
Well, and not only that, the penalty for him counting his army caused death.
Mm-hmm.
People, that's directed on him.
All right. When David did a census, when God told him not to, we all do census. How often does America do census? Every 10 years. And you want to know how many people you got. God told him not to do a census. Do you remember why? Or any opinion on why? In a nutshell, do you think, go ahead, Andrew.
You don't want him to rely on his own forces, thinking that, bolstering his ego, like look at all the people I have, all the strong armies. He wanted him just to solely rely on God.
Okay. When I tell you to rise up against the Amalekites or the Philistines, well, God, I don't know if I didn't ask you if you've got enough people in your army. I said, get ready to go. How many did they go into battle with Gideon? 300. All right. So that's why they weed the stuff out. That's why God did stuff like that. So anyway, and David was a revered warrior, and it talks about King David forever. Why genealogy matters. Does Jesus go through David? Why do we keep talking about David this and David that? And we just read it in Matthew. He does, which we will bring it to home a little bit before we go into the New Testament. And we've talked about this a little bit. Why is King David so looked upon highly in Israel today?
He was the one that really solidified Jerusalem's kingdom for the most part. Like, I know Saul was the first, but David was the one who really established it as being the true kingdom and nation across where they were revered and everything else.
Okay.
Solomon kind of built upon that.
And we're going to talk about Saul, then David, then Solomon. When we think of our founding fathers and the first president, who do we revere as the first president? General George Washington. Why didn't they pick somebody else? Why didn't they pick King Saul? Just throwing things out there. Because remember, Saul has his thousands, but David had his tens of thousands. Plus he had his might. He's a mighty warrior, and he was a revered warrior. Solomon, what was Solomon's claim to fame? Huh?
He didn't lose battles.
I can't hear you.
He didn't lose battles. When he went to war, he won.
Solomon or David? David won. What about Solomon? He's wise? He built, David bought everything and had everything ready to go. Solomon was the one that actually built the temple. You have a comment, sir? Okay. But so why don't the Israelis today revere Solomon for his wisdom? This is my opinion. When you're fighting every 10 or 15 or 20 years war with everybody around you, do you want to have a hero that is a mighty warrior and you come mess with them, you're messing with my genealogy? Or do you want Saul, the people, Saul this, and Solomon was wise, peace under Solomon, wise man. No, if you're trying to stop people from invading your country, not only invading, but from wiping you out, what's your mindset got to be? It's got to be that. And we can debate, that's a whole nother thing. But mindset, when you go into these battles, is the key, especially when you're on these little special operations. You have to be focused because you may not be one of the ones to come home. Anyway, that's just something.
How many Jewish people today can trace their genealogy?
How many people today can trace their genealogy? Jews. All right, which brings into a whole nother study when Jesus comes, because Jesus could trace his genealogy in Matthew, because he could say who he's going to come and when he was going to come. Can they do that today? How far back can they trace a Jew today, trace their genealogy back to? I'm talking, remember Matthew, I'm talking about, because they took genealogy serious. If somebody was to come and says, I'm Jesus, and they said it's going to be from the bloodline of Judah or from the house of David, can they do that? Three, that's right, 200 or 300 years, because they can go all the way to Solomon, Judah. He can go all the way back to Abraham. One of the things after World War II or present now, you have to be able to trace your genealogy to prove that you're a Jew, not just a religious Jew, a bloodline Jew, to be able to go to Israel and live. If you're an American, you can't go to there. You can get a visa, you can work, but you have to leave every so much. You can't live there. The only ones they accept are people that are true Israelis, but they can only go back 200 or 300 years because everything else is gone. All right, so to answer whatever the question was, nobody can trace you asked that question, Dan? Nobody can trace it. And that's part of the problem with Jesus coming. If they're looking for the Messiah, they can't trace his genealogy.
Are you saying that because the way people just wiping each other out?
Well, I said, am I saying that because of people wiping each other out? Have y'all read about, and you hear it, the 10 lost tribes? When Babylon, Richard, you've heard about it. Can you tell us what that is about?
Well, when the Assyrians finally invaded Samaria, or the northern kingdom, for all intents and purposes, all their genealogy was lost. They were absorbed into the Assyrian army. I mean, not army, but the nation. And therefore, you have no way of tracing that genealogy. Now, people today keep saying they found the lost tribes, but they haven't, because they're gone.
All right. And a lot of the lost tribes they think are in in Egypt, south of Ethiopia is one. That's where the Ark of the Covenant is supposed to be too, in Ethiopia, in a church, by keepers of one of the lost tribes. And you'll hear this every once in a while. People from Atlanta will claim that they're members of. And the other point is, to your point, after the destruction of the temple, what happened to Judaism per se? Did they go to the temple and worship? It wasn't there. And what did the Jewish religion circle around? The temple. So if the temple's not there, Rome done killed 1 million some odd people. Do you really hear anything about the Israelites after the destruction of the temple? Those are thinking questions. We're not going to get. That's a whole nother thing. But what happened to them? So can they trace it back? No, but they can from today. My mother says she was Jewish. My grandmother says she was Jewish. My great-grandmother says she was Jewish. You can go back that far, but then you get to the point where there are really no records and nobody recites. Back in the olden times, you had to remember your genealogy and recite it. That's how they passed it before they started writing all that stuff. I don't know if I've lost you or befuddled you, and I hope that answered the question.
But the other thing is they don't allow DNA testing today in that region. It's alcohol. So you can't even, even if we have DNA, all the 23andMe and all that stuff, you can't do that if you live in Israel. They don't really want to know, per se.
All right, and why? Yes, ma'am.
Did you think World War I pretty much destroyed a whole lot of stuff when it was going on bombing and the different areas?
Well, anytime.
Bomb was a good thing for the country that was winning, but when you think about it, it wiped out everything.
It does wipe out everything.
All of the history stuff that people had, it wiped it out.
And that's part of it. And then when you scattered abroad in 70 AD, you're taking this and that, and the 10 tribes that are taken before that, you start losing. And we're going to run out of time. We'll start with the New Testament. But I am going to, since we're talking about this. The Jews are waiting for Jesus to come, right? Was it predicted that he's coming from the east? Yeah, it is. He's coming through the east gate. It is. If you read in the Old Testament, it'll say. When the Arabs and the Muslims came to power, Is there a love-hate relationship between the Muslims and the Jews? All right. When the Muslims, on their conquest and all that, took over Jerusalem, and what year was that? I don't remember either. Muhammad was 700. I was looking back over there to the rabbi. I can't remember. Muhammad was 700, so that's when Islam started in that vicinity. And I can't even, Solomon, anyway. He took over Jerusalem. He knew about the prophecy of Jesus coming. He knew he was coming out of the east. And you can read it. So what did he do? And it's true today. He put a cemetery on the east side of that gate. And he also bricked up the gate. And when we got to go to Israel, we've got a picture with that in the background. You can see the cemetery stones and you can see the gate. All the other gates are open. We went into 2 or 3 of the gates. But that gate is bricked closed. And he put a cemetery, not just a cemetery, remember right, it's a Muslim cemetery. Now, if you're a Jew, what can you not do? Something clean, unclean. Were the dead unclean? So is a Jew going to walk through a cemetery? Because it makes them unclean, right? They just tells you how far this prophecy and how much this stuff goes back to. It goes back to the Bible. Not only do the Jews read the Bible, Christians read the Bible, Islam reads the Bible as well. All right, because Jesus in the Islam world, and I'm going way off track, is a prophet. They believe Jesus existed, but he was a prophet. But anyway, getting back to the Jewish religion, and you know, to be a Jew or in Israel, you can be born a Jew, you can be religiously a Jew, and there was a third one. I forgot what the other one. So you can be you can be born in Israel and be a Arab Israeli. I want to say Jew, but you can be Arab Israeli because you know, Jerusalem is built up, and you can be a Christian Israeli because you were born there. You can be a Jewish Israeli. So Israeli is a race of people. It's a religion of people. So anyway, there was the first bell. Any other questions or comments? We're going to get into the New Testament, and it'll be 2 very quickly. We'll talk about Jesus in Rome and when he dealt. Well, we'll go ahead and start now. Who was in power when Jesus came on board? And what was Rome's? They had a big military philosophy. We're going to talk about that last question. Did Jesus ever condemn Rome? That's a thinking question. Just throw some, huh? Render, I was going to say, when they were out there and they talking about the coins and all this other stuff, and he asked, give me a coin, and who's on there? Caesar. Will render unto Caesar what Caesar's. Did Jesus ever say, thou shalt not be in the army, Roman centurion? We're going to look at some of the interactions between the army and Jesus. Anybody have any questions before we close out? I appreciate everybody's comments. We'll get into the New Testament again. Can I be in the physical, in the U.S. military, and be in God's army? And we'll close out after that. Appreciate your time and your thoughts.